Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back to Season 2 of the Macro Lounge podcast. I am Chris Bold, of course, and joined today by the queen of all things sparkle and fit model swimsuit extraordinaire creator, Rachel Mead, all the way live from Tauranga. How are we today, my dear?
We are good. As Chris said, yeah, I've been working on a lot of fit model suits at the moment. Um, we can, okay,
Let's
let's,
be fair, the language has been a lot more colourful than I've
mm,
been working on fit model suits.
yes, it has. Yeah, Chris gets the
Unfiltered version.
unfiltered version, yes, but they basically, IFBB recently posted about the coverage. So I have made a couple of tweaks to the suit, just not huge amounts, just to make it a bit more comfortable to wear also, and also to go along with kind of what they've said they want. But we will say that what they say they want isn't necessarily what was rewarded last year, which is a little bit frustrating.
You say this like it's a surprise, you know. To
Yes.
be fair, it's probably going to take them a season or two to figure out the kinks. I mean, you only have to look back to when bikini first started in the IFBB, and some of the suits came out, and they, the modest era, the modest cut era, which was the rules under the old IFBB amateur, and some of them were just monstrous. And then you had another girl walk on with a Brazilian, and you're like, I don't know. And it wasn't until ooh, probably what 2016, 2017 that
Yeah, something around there.
NZIFBB said stop with the modest cut and said, "Well, everybody's going for a pro cuts, may as well." So if that
It
took him
just
10 years for that, it's probably going to take him at least three to figure out Phil.
It is hard though because like now everyone knows that it looks better. We
Yeah,
know it does. So it's
yeah.
very hard to then say, "Hey, let's actually wear a cut that looks worse," but then it's not actually strictly monitored. So people are
No,
wearing the better cut and still getting rewarded for it. So why would you then wear the cut that looks worse?
because you're going to wear the cut that you can get away with until somebody says, "Do you have an option B?" And that doesn't happen very often. So,
Yes.
yeah.
It's like
But as I said,
was it 2021 where New Zealand changed the rules from 50%? 2021? No,
it never
2022.
said 50%, but it
Oh,
specified
modest.
the modest cut, and it used to have the pictures from IFBB Amateur or IFBB Worldwide, whatever they were called at the time. That sort of there was never really an announcement. It just sort of disappeared.
No, yeah. They
And
just
it
kind
was
of
like,
took it away.
yeah, they were like, yeah,
But
just
yes,
just make sure they're not doing that. Or the only advice I got for registrations was, if you think they're too small, Chris, they're probably too small. I was like,
I was say then there was
okay.
me and my pro cut in 2021 while the rule was
Yes.
still modest coverage.
Yes, I do remember looking at it and looking at you going, yeah,
Look
it's fine.
better.
Yeah,
Look
it's
better.
like, yeah, off you go. It's not a G string. It's fine. It's fine. But it'll take a while and then it'll settle down. But yeah,
Yes, so
I can appreciate that in your professional capacity. That's probably a freaking nightmare. But hey,
it is the greatest source of frustration all the time since they
ah, well,
came out with it.
yeah, it's like, great, more. Anyway, all right. Well, we're going to start off this week. We got a few more Sharns to go through. We've got some anonymous ones and some not so anonymous ones. We did get another classic one from Brooke, but we decided it wasn't naked, so it didn't really top the previous one. So she's going to have to step her game up for next week. Or we've threatened that we will do an entire episode of just Brooke reading out the bullshit she's got up to over her competing career, which, from what we've heard so far, should be quite an entertaining episode, and Rachel and I will have no work to do.
It might be a very long episode, to be
Hmm.
honest.
Yep. Yep. So I know I can actually picture that, so it's really not that big a stretch. So who we got first this week, Rach? Oh, the
Uh,
fantastic who we got?
Shanna Solomon, our
Dennis Solomon.
amazing wellness queen.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
Shanna said she had a situation where her work car broke down in peak week and didn't have the energy to be able to change the tire. So got towed to the closest tire shop, and then a week later, the transmission went on the car and had to be towed again. Thanks, prep.
See the frustration in that. I mean, it's not really Prep's fault unless she forgot to put, you know, transmission fluid in the car over the period of time she was in Prep. So,
I mean, it's
so I
just
could,
that
I could,
it
I could
happens. It
imagine
always
Shanna
has
with
to
that.
happen in peak
Yeah,
week.
yeah, that's
I
true.
believe she did say she made friends with the tow guys as well.
Probably did. And and I can imagine she got quite a cheeky sense of humor that one, and I can imagine she probably managed to get a discount. I would say, and they probably fell for that. Who else we got? Let's see. Amy Lack, the fantastic bikini. Oh, no, not bikini. She's doing figure now. She's moving on up.
Yes.
She's got, I thought this was funny. 10 days out from show, her stomach felt yuck. So she got a 2-litre bottle of sugar-free ginger beer. It was a good idea to
Fair
settle
enough.
the stomach. It was warm, but it tasted amazing. And I sculled half of it before I started wondering, why does this taste so good? Turns it over and finds out it's not the sugar-free. But at least her veins look sick.
I feel like that's
I can
everyone's worst nightmare on prep.
Yeah.
Is just accidentally not having the sugar free.
Although I think, to be fair, if it was Amy, if it came on the back of it and said there was a vegetable content, she probably would have puked. She does not a fan of the vegetables, as our Mrs. Lang. All right, who else we got there, Rich?
So we do have another one from Angela Stone. She says that in prep chaos, baking a fish, dropping the dish, plus smashing the oven. Dealing with 1,000 pieces of glass followed by a full meltdown. No humans or animals were harmed, but the glass went everywhere, like 5 meters into the lounge and up the hallway when it exploded. That's insane. Smashing the oven.
Yeah, that's what I was... How? I think there's clarification is required on that one.
Not even just the dish, the oven. Yeah. And then you got to buy a new oven. Or somehow replace the glass. I don't even know if that's a thing. I've never heard of someone smashing the oven.
I'm thinking it would require a reasonable amount of just pure skill to be able to do that.
I was going to say, that is quite skilled.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good one.
Not a good skill to have, but a skill all the same.
Yeah, it's probably one that you'd have trouble explaining to somebody when they came home. I just picture, hey babe, what else your day been? Well, let me tell you. We do need to stop off at Bunnings on the way home because we kind of need a new oven.
I mean, at that point, I would probably just stick to my air fryer, to be honest. Or just buy an air fryer. And just, like, the oven is just gone for the rest of prep. It just doesn't exist anymore.
It's just a shelf at that point. It's just, it doesn't.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a storage shelf. You store your dirty dishes there.
Yeah, I can see that. Yep. With the that was actually one that we got a lot of comments on, was you and your big bowls. I think that's a Sharn unto itself. I mean, that had us in hysterics because the auto, what do you call it? Translate for the subtitles. Apparently Rachel would have had the entire lyrics to AC/DC's Big Balls instead of Big Bowls, and it did cause a little bit of a chuckle amongst the WhatsApp group for the team. So we'll be saving that one for a later date, I think. Yeah,
so the whole transcript, instead of talking about big bowls of, like, food, apparently was us talking about big balls. And how I can't find any big balls.
And Rachel liked big balls, and she wanted big balls. Valerie was in hysterics. And I was like, what are you laughing about? Because she's behind me. And she's literally got her head on the desk, and she's, like, tapping out. I was like, what the? It took me a while to figure it, and I was like, yeah, we probably need to edit that transcript because that's going to get us into trouble.
I just saw the transcript and I was like, wait, what was the content? Because I didn't even remember. Yeah. And I was like, what were we talking about?
That's what I said. I said, what the hell were we talking? Right. Wedding gifts. That's what we were doing. Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, we'll keep that one. We'll save that one for a rainy day. We'll put that to its own soundtrack. That could be entertaining.
Could be.
Anyway, what are we going to talk about this week? We are going to be focusing on feedback. So obviously now, particularly this part of the world, athletes are getting ready for season A in New Zealand and Australia and also throughout Asia, some of the Asian countries. Whilst now you're in prep, so we wanted to talk a little bit about feedback itself, sort of what the process is to go around it, how to apply it, how to ignore it is also a fairly decent thing. And also, so we wanted to sort of delve a little bit into that because I can tell you after all of my years of judging, the number of people that actually seek feedback, and it used to be my pet gripe every year, is abysmally low. It's abysmally low. Very different in this part of the world than, say, it was when I was in the States with NPC USA, where everybody asked for feedback. So it is a critical part of your process, but there's a way to do it and there's a way to apply it. So I guess one of the first things we wanted to go through was why feedback hurts, but it is actually essential, Basically, everyone says they want the feedback, but what they really want is validation. And, Rachel's generally been very good. We actually found some emails back from what year, Rachel?
Oh, God, 2021, I think it was? Yeah. Is it 2021?
She's a little bit sassy the way she asked for feedback, too. I look back on it now, I was like, man, that should have been a clue. But some athletes, they only want feedback that confirms their belief, right? And some athletes, they'll blame politics every time they don't win. Some of them, they just ignore the feedback. And that's the thing, is like feedback's data, right? It's not a personal attack, or it shouldn't be. I think we talked last year about your placing on stage is not a character reference. It's just in that time. So, I mean, you've had feedback. You've had feedback from me in the past, Rich. You've had feedback
I
from
have.
me as a judge. You've had feedback from me as a coach. Both probably equally as brutal. Is it something? Have you ever found it? Not just from me, but from anybody else that you've got feedback before. Has it always been a constructive process, or is it? Have you in the past have you struggled with asking for it or taking it on board? How have you found that? Like, has it ever been that way, or have you just like, that's what it is?
Yeah, so usually I do kind of know what the feedback is before I get it. Like, I more or less in my head know this is what I need to work on. Like, I know I always need more size. That's just
Yeah.
general. My first year of competing, I knew I needed to be more conditioned as well. So, yeah, generally, I do have a pretty good idea, and I don't think I've ever been really blindsided by feedback.
Mm. Well, I can think of one.
Yeah, there was one comment from a judge that was a little bit more blindsiding. But other than that, I've never been blindsiding. That's only one time in however many years, which you do kind of need to just accept sometimes as it is what it is. When Chris says I'm a little bit sassy in my feedback, it's because if I see something that I don't agree with, I will usually call it out. I will not always be like, "Oi, this is wrong," or like, "What the hell is this?" But I will find a way
Oh, it
to
was pretty
ask
close.
about it. Yeah, I will let you know that, hey, what happened here?
Maybe
And
sassy's not the right word. Maybe salty. Salty. That's
okay, I am known to be a little bit salty and sometimes a little bit petty. So I was a little bit petty, I think, when I asked Chris for one of my feedbacks. I do believe
oddly
I
enough. I
wasn't
must
wrong
have.
though,
No, you weren't. But no, you weren't. Funnily enough.
but you weren't
And
allowed
then
to say that.
I had to respond in a politically correct manner of, I agree with you, but I can't tell you I agree with you because then I'm going to get in trouble with other people. So I'm just going to say, let's just focus on the positive side of this. She comes back with, what do you mean by that? Yeah, and I think that's when people say that the feedback hurts. Like a lot of people don't actually want feedback, right? I remember an athlete at the Arnold's in Australia, and we had the judging panel that offered her some feedback, and word for word, she says, "I don't need your feedback. I know what I need to do." And you watch every single judge at the table go,
Alrighty then.
"All right."
You say so.
Uh, yeah, sometimes, and I think in this sport, feedback can sometimes be well, especially, and we'll talk a little bit later on about it, but feedback can be very specific around when you ask for it. Like
Yeah.
if you're asking for it, like right there post show, coming up to the judges' table saying, I need my feedback now. It can be a little raw, a little bit emotional, and you could maybe not take it in the method in the context that it's intended. It also could be that the judges are like, well, wrap this up and we've got to get out of here.
Actually, that's a good point because I know in US it's very, very common and it's highly recommended to go approach the judges after the show to ask for your feedback. I feel like that's not encouraged here. Am I wrong, Chris?
But yeah, I would say it's not. It's not uncommon in the US, that's for sure. Less common in Europe, and probably even less common here in New Zealand. Yeah, it's something that it's a difficult one because if you've got a large show and there's like 100, 200 athletes in it, and every one of those is coming up to the head judge normally is the one giving the feedback, right? Because they're ultimately the one that sort of shepherds everybody in a certain direction. It can be very, very difficult because you've got all of these athletes in a very high pressure environment. It's often the best time to ask because it's the freshest in the judge's memory. But at the same time, if you wanted a more structured feedback where you're going to be able to put a plan in place with your coach and your team and all that sort of carry on, I tend to say do it later through the formal procedure. I know Tony in Australia has both a express format and a standard format, so you pay for the express one. Standard one, you get it when they get around to it. But that sort of more structured, formalized feedback is going to come back with a little bit more time, and they're going to base it off the photos that they're seeing. Because the reality of it is, if you've got a big show and you've seen some athlete 5 times on stage, you're not going to give the nuance. It's just going to be, okay, your glutes need to be bigger, or your conditioning wasn't quite enough. It's probably relatively generalized, I think, if it's done
Yeah.
on the day. So I would
And
sort of say,
I'm going to
there
be
is a
honest,
process.
I have actually asked once before when just one of the main people came backstage, and I don't actually think he had any idea who I was.
No, that would
Because
be fair.
I got told to come in more conditioned, and I was by far the leanest, and I was pretty lean. And then I came back a little bit leaner, and then I got told I was way, way, way too lean. So
Look, hey, sometimes mistakes happen too. So
Yeah, so I think that sometimes they will probably just give you something general. If you ask and they don't necessarily know who they are, they will probably just give you a general one.
Yep. I've been guilty of that. It's like the reality of it is my focus. I've
It's a
got
bit awkward to
intentions
say,
to.
"Hey, I'm sorry, I don't know, I can't remember you." Like,
Yeah, like what class were you in? I don't know. I I have been known to do that, and the attention span when you're really trying to focus so intently on an individual class, it is almost like cramming for an exam. You just get it all in, and then as soon as they've gone off stage, you're like, and then you don't really sort of be able to sort of focus on it until afterwards when you're looking at photos. And that's one of the people have heard me say for years is like buy the stage photos because the judges don't have access to those. So they will ask you, please send me the stage photos. And that doesn't mean send your boyfriend's photos from your iPhone of while you're on stage because you can't see anything with those. But it's like, it's $25. Spend the $25. It's probably going to be the best feedback you're going to get. As if $25, I don't know, I've never paid for it.
with ICN, it's $25. I'm not sure about IFBB.
Yeah, so it's a tough one, but don't be scared to ask. A lot of people are. They think the judges are very scary. They think they're very intimidating.
I thought Chris was scary.
Yeah, you were wrong.
Chris looks very scary, especially when he's judging.
It's very focused. It's a very concerned. It's very intent on what I'm doing. Mainly because I shaking glasses every 5 seconds because I can't freaking see.
But yes,
yeah, it's
ask for the feedback. Like it is probably better to get it after the show anyway, because like if the judges or some are doing the feedback, they were at the show and the photos can remind them of who you are. So they're not only going to be looking at the photos, they're also going to, it's more of a memory jog. They can use that as a reference and be like, oh yes, I remember she needed to be a little bit more conditioned compared to this girl.
Yeah. And that's how I use it. It's a memory trigger for, okay, what was I seeing at the time? If there's like a really short time, like say for example, I don't know, probably classic example would be going from a regional and then nationals is 2 weeks later. You may not have enough time to get formalized feedback from the judges. So that one I would sort of ask on the date of what do I need to do improve on for nationals, and it's primarily going to be conditioning related.
Yeah,
very seldom they're going to turn around, you need bigger delts, and you're like, well, I'm screwed because I'm not going to be able to do that in 2 weeks.
One thing I will say, if that is you and you only have like a 2 week gap, don't wait for the feedback. I've seen it so many times where girls have waited for their feedback between shows and they haven't changed anything. They've just waited. And I'm like, well, you should know more or less. Like, you should have an idea. You should implement what you think first, or like what your coach thinks. And then if you can see if you were right, like save the time. Otherwise, you're wasting an entire week of where you could be improving.
Yeah, and all these judges are volunteers, so they may not have the time. They've got real lives, real jobs. They've got to do other things. So yeah, if you've got a short time period, I think that's a really good opportunity to ask. But I can highly stress is just be respectful of them. Just say, can I have a minute of your time just to get some feedback? I'm going through to nationals. 9 out of 10 of them will give that to you, and then implement it from there. But I think that's sort of, we talked a little bit about, I think that's a key thing to sort of try and identify or try and recognize is the difference between structured versus informal feedback. So your structured is when you're asking for like literally a written judge's feedback where they're going to send you notes. They're going to send you, or in my case, they're going to send you a photo where they're drawing on it saying, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I noticed. That's a very structured form. It could also be a coaching debrief, which you do with your coach post-show. It can also be things from like a posing review from your posing coach, or objective metrics, like what was the goal for that show? So it's not literally based on results or what do you need to improve. If the goal was to be at X% body fat with a slight hint of a hamstring tie-in because you've still got 4 to 6 weeks of prep time up your sleeve, did you meet those? So those are your sort of structured ones. Even blood work can be one as well, so which is really good. And then you have your informal feedback, which can often be a freaking disaster, and that's your gym mates, your boyfriend, your husband,
your parents,
who always think you should win. Instagram, random comments on social media, anonymous comments on social media. Those are great. So it's applying structured versus informal. I don't know about you, Rachel. People are always going to comment, right? You're going to post a picture up of yourself on stage. You're always going to get the positive informal. which is usually going to be a fellow competitor or, somebody in the community that, you may know just through social media. You might not actually know them in person. I always think that's funny, the number of people comment on my stuff on social media that I run into the gym and they just blank me. It's like, and then they post, like, I wish I knew you were there. It's like, you talk to me, you dumb. But you're obviously always going to get people comment, right? Which of the comments do you listen to? Do you listen to the ones who are like, hey, you look great, this was awesome? Or which of the ones that actually have a stronger effect on you are the ones that are that, or the ones that are saying, you've got an eating disorder, or you shouldn't, the negative, the trolls out there, which unfortunately do love to troll bikini competitions.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't listen to any of them. I listen to the little voice in my head. Although, to be honest, I don't like when I got like that one time I got really, really, really lean. That was pretty crazy how lean I was. That was 2023, and I didn't like all the looks I was getting in the gym. I was getting a lot of like eating disorder alert like kind of vibes from people in the gym, especially when I got on the Stairmaster and I was looking very deathly skinny and everyone's like, go eat a burger, and I didn't really like that, but it's also a personal thing on me. Like, I've always felt quite skinny, I guess. Like, I've never been a big person. I've always been relatively petite, especially for my height. So for me, like, I've never, and also being a swimmer, actually, to be honest, I've never had too much issues because I'm used to walking around in a bikini all the time. Like, that was just half my childhood growing up.
What do you mean childhood? You still do it today?
This is true. But, like, also, the ones I listen to least, I would say, are definitely the positive ones. I'm more likely to ignore the positive ones and be like, they're biased. Which I think probably a lot of people can relate to, but you're gonna go probably one way or the other, where you're gonna be like, oh, everyone says I'm amazing, I must be amazing. Or you're going to be like, oh, everyone says I'm trash, I must be trash. Social media, like, especially Instagram and like places you can see the username, is definitely not going to be entirely accurate. People usually, like, they know that who you are usually, unless it's like an anonymous one, but again, that's an anonymous one. Why are you listening to them? They obviously have nothing better to do with their time. If you are actually going to get feedback from social media, I'd say the place to do it would be Reddit. No one knows who you are, and then you don't know who anyone is. That's probably going to be, honestly, the best place that you're going to get the most accurate. But in general, you should be listening first to the judges, second to your coach. Sometimes your coach and the judges might not agree. That happens. Yeah. And at that point, you do have to think about, like, how important is this judge? Is it the head judge of that federation? Are you going to continue being judged by that particular judge? If yes, you probably do need to listen to them. If you're going overseas, then maybe you can potentially be like, oh, I don't really agree with them, so let's try being judged by someone else.
Yeah.
Because there is different judging standards.
Yeah,
like, depending on where you are.
There shouldn't be, but there is. Different countries, different, in the States, you've got different states, there's different, they have different looks that they like. It's a complex one. I mean, that's the thing, is like, you don't have to agree with it. You don't have to like it. You also don't have to implement it. Because at the end of the day, this is your journey. You're putting your body on stage. It's like, I mean, yes, if you're planning on going for a pro status or, whatever, then it kind of makes sense to listen to the judges because they are the ones that are going to be making the decision.
I actually do have two really good examples of this, of not listening to the judges. They're both from Europe. Valeria, the K-Lord, and who was the other one? Oh, there's another girl. Valeria and, I've lost it. There was another girl from Europe as well. But she, that one particular, Valeria, she went to Olympia and she kind of did a bit of a fuck you to the judges because they've been telling her for ages that she needs to come in softer, less conditioned, and probably a little bit smaller, because she tends to come in very jacked, like borderline figure. And so she rocked up with a like gold tan type bikini, which everyone is always told not to do, very European style, with her hair tied up in a high ponytail, being super, super jacked and super, super lean. And she does this like every single year. Like, she'll qualify for the Olympia over in Europe, and then she will not implement at all what the judges in the US tell her to do for the Olympia, ever.
Girl knows what she likes.
Yeah, so I mean, sometimes if what you like is, I mean, actually all the time, what you like is actually the most important thing, because if you don't like what you look like, why are you competing? Like, you should be working towards the look that you like. If you don't like the look of, I don't know, bikini, let's say, I don't know, or figure, why are you working towards it? What's the point?
Yeah. If you don't like that level of muscularity, or you like a higher level of muscularity, then look at a different class and a different federation, because ultimately your look is not necessarily going to be rewarded in that federation. So there's a home for everybody. But I think feedback, the authority and the context of it matter. It's, the social media feedback doesn't mean jack. Your partner and your parents, they don't. It doesn't count. Yours
Unless
is
you've got a partner like mine who just constantly tells you your shit. He's
Edward.
like, win or don't come home.
Right. Okay.
That's literally, I think
When's
I
his
showed you
next
this.
competition?
No, he is pretty good on being like pretty accurate with his reviews. Like if you've got a partner who's very like very honest, brutally honest with you, that kind of gives them a little bit more credibility. Some
Right.
partners will always tell you should win. Mine tells me if I don't win, I don't come home, and then asks me why I'm so shit.
Some people's motivations are a little different than others. I mean, I wouldn't advise that sort of behavior, gentlemen, if you're watching this, because
No, definitely. I
it's
mean, depends on your partner. If Chris did that, he would probably get murdered.
I would. My wife watches those murder documentaries for a reason, and I think it's called market research. So if I am smothered in my sleep one night, it will be my wife's fault. Just putting that out there.
So yeah, for the
I
police, if
love her
you ever
dearly,
find
but she's scary for a short person.
sure people are always scary. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. That is very true. Very true. All right. So who should you ask, and who should you not ask for feedback? So obviously, you're going to ask the judges, right? That's one of their purposes that they're there for. Generally, all the federations are very good at directing the feedback to the right person. Sometimes timing might be an issue. They might not get back to you in a timely manner, and that's unfortunate, just a fact of life. Obviously, your coach is one. They should be non-biased. It's hard sometimes to, especially if it's a close thing and it could have gone either way. You're kind of like, you know, they they get as invested in the personally invested in the process as you do. It's also good to ask experienced competitors who've been around. They may not be competing in that show, but who've been there, done that relatively recently. Maybe not from a feedback of what to do, but feedback of what you could have done differently. And it's really important that your feedback should be aimed towards yourself, that you're seeking, not as to why somebody else placed higher. That's something that is very difficult to answer. And as somebody who used to do that on a regular basis, I won't give you feedback that says that. Because again, mine is only one opinion out of 5 to 9 judges, and I can only say this is what I saw looking at you. It would be irresponsible of me to say, well, you could have beaten her if X, Y, and Z. Unqualified opinions, Rachel. Who would you say you should not be asking for feedback?
I mean, I would say yes to a point with the other competitors, but I think you do need to be careful. Just because someone has done a lot of shows, it doesn't actually necessarily mean they know what they're talking about. I've seen girls who have competed for like 5+ years and they still don't know what they're looking
Mm.
at or what they're talking about. Like they will say something about a category and you're like, huh?
Yeah,
What? Or
yeah.
like, yeah, so you do need to be a little bit careful on that. Just make sure it is someone who does a lot of research into competing and what the look is that's being rewarded, and they actually know, okay, for this criteria, this is what the judges are looking for, rather than someone who just does a lot of shows. Maybe they place well,
Mm.
but they kind of just rock up and they don't actually look into it themselves. They just get their coach maybe to do everything for them. So yeah, definitely that is something to be aware of. 'Cause I have
Yeah.
seen girls who like they will ask like just maybe their friends or their teammates, and then they will, even especially if they have different coaches, it can get very messy. And I've seen girls, I've had to have massive conversations with a couple who have had conversations with people who are from different coaches, and usually the people from the same coaches will kind of say one thing and then one thing from a different coach. It just kind of groups, but yeah, it gets a little bit clicky. And then if that's not what your coach says, you're like, my coach must be wrong. Not
Mm.
necessarily. Everyone else doesn't know what you're doing. They don't actually know you. They don't know the whole background, and they are biased. So you do need to be a little bit careful of that, and when you're asking like friends or teammates for their opinions as well.
Yeah, that's true. There's also, I think, you need to be careful of some of the loudest voices. Like there's this trend on social media now for people to provide, I would say, an unprofessional, unskilled opinion on somebody, but because they say it in a well-recorded format or in a current format, that's this whole critiquing people's exercise things and watching it and all that sort of stuff. But you're getting a lot more of these people who are then talking about somebody's performance on stage, but because they're doing it loud and they're impassioned about it and look at this girl. I've always seen one just recently, and then they were raving about this person's posing, yet every single comment on Reddit about this athlete was this person's posing was just because they're loud doesn't mean they're wrong.
And in case you can't tell, we love Reddit.
It's like a gossip. I love it. It's like Mean Girls on crack.
Well, I feel like with bodybuilding, people get very, very scared to voice their true opinions when their name is attached because everyone is very scared of politics, which may or may not happen depending on where and who you are. I don't know. We'll leave it at that. But regardless of if it happens or not, people are scared of it. So they will often not say their true opinion on Instagram where their profile is shown. You get the true opinions on Reddit.
Yeah, but you also do get the opposite, where you get people who think they have a qualified opinion and then they will
That's
share
true.
it as such, and they really should shut them.
That's true.
Some people get a little brave, and yeah, we should enough said about that.
Anyway.
Let's just say that the whole anonymous links are not always anonymous.
That's okay. But when you are receiving feedback, it's also important to understand what you're being told, because it doesn't all. If people often will take it very literally, and it's not always as literal as you think. So sometimes the way the judges word things, it can sound slightly different to what you think it might mean.
Yeah, I've seen, and also don't play the judges off against each other when you're asking for feedback. I have seen that where when I was judging, we would communicate with each other. Hey, has XYZ asked you for feedback? Yep. Okay, well, this is what I thought. What did you say? I said, well, I'm going to say this. And like, okay, cool. We've got, we'll go back and look at the pictures together. And so we're on the same track, because you'll frequently get somebody, I might say, for example, somebody needed to be a little bit softer in the glutes, and one of the other judges might say they need to be a little bit fuller, and then somebody goes, well, this judge said I need to be full, and this judge said I need to be soft. We meant the same thing. It's just we used a slightly different terminology. But some people will get hung up on that, and it can. Judges are not silly. They know, so they do communicate outside of when they're sitting on that stage. So yeah.
So something very important to understand. Chris, what does the word fullness mean?
Fullness doesn't mean fat. It's literally having, the muscles should have enough glycogen in them to be like they're healthy. They look like they're not scrawny, or I was going to say emaciated. It's to do with the healthy look of the muscle. It's when the muscle's pushing up against the skins. Everything is just pushing. It doesn't, and there's a fine line between being full and being soft. And tends to be soft is when you've gone that little bit too far. You might be holding a little bit too much water, a little bit too much body fat under the skin. That's when you get the soft look. So fullness that's the trick, and that's the tough part in bikini. Particularly if you're an athlete that tends to be very lean, tends to be fairly muscular. It's how do you come in full so you're not striated, you don't have feathering in your muscles, but you still present a look that is reflective on who you are. And there are athletes who struggle with that. We have a couple on our team that, it's a battle to get them that full look, because they just happen to be more muscular and leaner. That's just their nature. So,
I think, it's also sometimes your muscle type. Like, for example, like Maureen, she's very known for having a very full look. Whereas some other athletes who have like the leaner type muscle, it's not going to look as full. But I like to think of it like with describing fullness, it's like blowing up a balloon.
Yep. That's
so
a very
you just
good
want
analogy.
to kind of increase the size of it. We're pumping the glycogen in, which is like the air that you're blowing into the balloon, and expanding it a little bit. So we get that nice
career in
rounded
coaching there, Rachel. We'll keep you on.
Great analogies. So yeah, it's kind of like blowing up a balloon a little bit is fullness. Does not necessarily mean softer, which softer means a little bit more body fat. Okay, so I figured we should just explain all the terminology, because it took me so long to learn these. Like, you just learn them by, like, what's the word? Connotation at this point. So, little translator. Fuller, you're blowing up the balloon of the muscle, expanding it a little bit. Doesn't necessarily mean the muscle size has to be bigger. Sometimes it does. The judges don't know if you are, like, full or if you need more muscle sometimes. It can be hard to tell, especially if you are a little bit softer. It can be very, very hard to tell if you need more muscle or if you actually just need to be a little bit fuller. They don't know what flat looks like for you. So, flat, we're deflating the balloon. We've got no glycogen in there. It is deflated, and it hasn't been pushed outwards. And that's how you will feel the last few weeks of prep, especially.
And that's
like a deflated
frequently due to over dieting and just pushing it too hard, or dieting right up to the day of the show. It's, you will come in flat. You will come in depleted. You won't look at your best. You might be shredded as, peeled to the bone. But if you're not filling that balloon up with air, you're really not doing yourself any favors.
Some people will get flatter easier than others, like especially if you are someone who requires more food. Like, I flatten out very quickly. I literally will flatten out throughout the day, and I'm trying to shove rice in as much as I possibly can. So some people are like that. I know, for example, an Olympian, I know Isa Pacini's like that. I know that Laura Lee is like that. Certain people do struggle with that fullness. Whereas others, they might not need to eat any carbohydrates all day and they can still hold their fullness.
Yep.
Depends.
But
maybe
it
we've
comes
got
from
holes in our
practice and
balloons.
experience. Yeah, it's practice and experience. You're never going to get it right on your first show. I mean, if you do, that's a fluke, but it's possible.
Maybe we have holes in our balloons. Chris? Do I have a
What's that?
hole? I have a hole in my balloon. It just
Yeah, you have a whole yeah, it's true. It's like it needs some. Yeah, we need special glycogen in you. But like some people, for example, glycerin works really well on them. It actually holds the water within the muscle, doesn't dehydrate them so quickly, so they can hold the fullness for longer. It's not about how long you can hold a pump for, because that's all reflective on where you are in your conditioning. But yeah, it's like, and that's the other thing about feedback is like, if you don't understand, ask for clarification. Sorry, when you say fuller, what do you mean? Or can you give me an example? And you can always ask. You might not get a second response, but you can always ask.
so. And then
So
we've also got harder as well. If a judge says you need to come in harder, it means more conditioned. So you need to be leaner. More
yeah,
conditioned, being leaner. Less conditioned, obviously being a bit softer. There was one more term. What was it? I've lost it. What were we talking? You said it before, and
oh
now I've
god,
lost it.
it'll come back to us.
We'll come back. But yes, like it is very important to understand what the judges are saying, and again, it doesn't always mean exactly what they say. So
Like drier,
occasionally,
that's another
oh,
one.
drier,
Right.
yeah, yeah,
It
or
doesn't
watery.
necessarily. Yeah, you can be watery. You can be, and a lot of these things kind of mean the same thing. But
Watery
you know,
means you've got like water retention. Okay, so you drier, obviously, we get rid of water retention, so it's the opposite. You can usually see that a little bit, so you'll feel it even under your skin. If you actually kind of roll your skin underneath, you'll either feel the little fat cells, like it's kind of like a little bit bumpy, or it will feel quite smooth. If it feels smooth, that's usually water retention. And the judges can sometimes see that. Sometimes you can't always see the difference. So if they say maybe you're a bit watery, maybe you actually just needed to be more conditioned. Yeah, some of the terms you need to just realize that the judges can't tell while you're on
yeah.
stage.
And some of them don't apply to different classes. I mean, the reality of it is you don't want to be dry if you're bikini.
Yep.
In bodybuilding terms, your skin should be like onion skin. You should, if you pinch the skin, it should take time before it falls down in place. That means you have no, water or fat under your skin. It is, you are bone dry. There is nothing left. Now, you do that in bikini or wellness or even figure to a certain extent, you're going to get marked down. Whereas in bodybuilding, that is the expectation. That is the look that they want for. So yeah, and again, if you don't understand, ask, because as I said, they could mean one thing in their mind. That's what they meant, and if you've interpreted it elsewise, then that could have an effect on what you do going forward. Okay, what
What
else
does
were we probably
feathering
over?
mean, Chris? What does feathering mean?
Feathering's kind of like striations. Like when you see the muscle move, you literally see like these little feathers of muscles, and you normally will see it like on glutes or quads and stuff, which is a thing in bikini. And no matter what federation, they do not want to see, and that is extreme. No fat, no water, no nothing, and that is, you are depleted as. Now in bodybuilding, great, you've nailed it. In bikini, you've overshot. So it literally is. You'll see people when they move, and you'll see these like
It's like a little wave.
like a little wave, yeah, like little lines of
It's a
like you just
ripple.
see the
It's like a
muscle
ripple
just move.
effect.
Yeah, and that's like you're like, okay. I mean, some
Yeah,
people
you'll
call it
see the
striation.
muscle kind
Well,
of
sorry.
ripples under the skin a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah,
And then
different than
striation
striation.
is the little lines
Yeah,
that you can get across your muscle. So you'll see like little indented lines
yeah.
across the
So
muscle.
feathering's an extreme
Yeah.
of striations, and then you've got separation. And some classes they don't want that, and then you've got there's all sorts of different things. So yeah, it's just apply it. The other thing is like, yeah, we talked previously about is like, when do you ask for feedback? And as I said, it's not always good to ask when you're emotional backstage, or even worse, do not ask judges or anybody official for feedback during your peak week. The number of people that would come in during registrations and ask me for feedback, no, because, one negative word from anybody who's going to be casting an opinion on you can have a disastrous effect. There was a men's physique male athlete from years ago who could not handle negative feedback. And one word wrong, and he blew up like a water balloon. It's like you could see him filling up from the ankles, and it was like he'd look great, and then he'd ask for feedback, and then invariably somebody would make a negative comment, and you could see him. He'd be, his ego just crushed, and you could see him and then you'd see him on stage, and you go, "What happened?" It's just not the time to ask,
It's
because
good to know
also,
yourself. If you
yeah,
know that you don't take feedback or critique well, if you know that, don't deny it. It's fine. That's
yeah,
okay. You just ask for feedback afterwards. If you feel like having the feedback will be more motivating for you, then maybe that's fine because
mm,
you'll be like, yes, we're going to do this next season, but for now I'm just going to rock it. Like, it depends on how you take it a little bit. Most people, I would say, probably going to be the less likely to take it well, because nobody likes to be told that they're not quite there yet. Everyone wants to be told that, yes, they're top shit. But yeah, majority of people probably, wait till a little bit after. Wait till the emotions have calmed down, especially, if you haven't received the placing you want. Give it a minute, take a breath. The feedback won't change your placing, no matter what the feedback is. Even if the feedback, like, says, oh yeah, you just have the tiniest thing to change, and you're like, well, what the heck, then I should have placed higher. It doesn't matter, because you still placed the way you did. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change that. You implement the feedback and move on. Basically.
Even if that judge actually saying, yeah, you should have placed higher, which they shouldn't tell you, but sometimes it does happen.
Like when I emailed you, Chris.
Yeah. We won't repeat that one. But the other thing is, like, don't ask for feedback if you're not prepared to hear it. Because generally the people that you're asking for an official feedback, that's kind of their job. Their job isn't to necessarily to sugarcoat everything. Their job isn't necessarily to stroke your ego. You might have asked, what do I need to do? If you're not prepared to hear that, and it's like I used to always say, do you want the sugar-coated version or do you want the brutal honesty? And they're like, oh, I want the brutal honesty. And you're like, are you sure?
Do you?
Really? And most people would say to me, don't, no, ask them for that. But if you're not prepared to hear it, don't ask. It's simple as that. So what do you do with this feedback? So now we've got people right there. They're, in some cases, they're now going into prep. Into for season A. In other cases, they're still in their growth or off season. So what do you do with that feedback once you've got it? So personally, I like a lot of federations won't give feedback to coaches. They'll literally say, no, it's between the federation and the athlete. In some cases, they don't. In some cases, they'll give better feedback to the coaches. It's just there's really no standard to it. But I think the feedback is you want to. What to do with it is you really want to clarify what specifically needs improvement. So as again, it sort of depends on where you are in the seasons. Like if you're now prepping for season A and your feedback was you need to have better defined delt caps, you're not going to change that now. Should have done that in your off season. But if your feedback is you need to have better conditioning through balancing to your upper and lower body, now that's the perfect time to apply it because that's when you can apply that feedback and you can actually make a difference. Rach recently just got feedback from the Oceania, which we had to agree with. But it's a long-term project, that one, right, Rach? It's not something that we're not going to fix it this year. It's just something that we know it puts into that category of a longer-term project that we know we have to address and work on it to improve her dominance from her glutes and bring her back up a little bit so she's got a little bit more width, a little bit more shoulder cap. Wasn't anything we were like, so. But that's
no, I thought my shoulders were big enough.
Yeah, it's like, damn it.
As usual, yeah, upper body is lagging behind, as per usual.
Yeah. But that's all right. It wasn't not lagging for that far behind. It just needs to.
It's getting better.
Yeah.
Don't go off about your feedback if you don't agree with it. Don't have a go at the judges or at whoever's doing your feedback. There's no point to it. They've said what they said.
Yep.
That's their opinion, and like what they see on stage, that's what matters. Your opinion actually doesn't matter, to be honest.
Yeah. And, as I said, it's like categorize that feedback into what's an immediate addressable issue, what's a medium term. That might be like, what can I address in this off season so I improve for next year? And then you've got your longer term ones, the ones that are going to require longer time. And that's going to be, adding more size, which particularly in for natural athletes is just going to take time. And so, categorize which ones are which, and then don't try and do them all at once because sometimes you can't do that. If they're conditioning related, save that for prep. It might be a longer prep. That's something you discuss with your coach. But the key thing is build a structured plan around it rather than panic changing everything. It's like, okay, I did this well. This needs to be improved. But the time to apply anything around structural changes, obviously, or physique changes, is in the off season. Last week, off season is the most fun because you can throw stuff around, don't have to worry about it. And Rachel's always been very good at applying feedback she's got, and she's going to post a reel up shortly of her first show posing versus her last show posing. I'm looking forward to it because it gives me a good chuckle every time.
Yeah, it is quite hilarious.
But you've always applied the feedback, right? And that's the point: is to get feedback, plan it out, So plan it out with your coach, plan it out with your team. Like, how are you going to apply this feedback? How does that feedback that might have come through some structured format, like from the judges from the various federations, how do you apply that to where you're going to go? And also, does that feedback sit with you? Like, is it something that you want to do? And then, and again, it's just a tool. Don't take it personally. It's not an indicator of you as a person. It's just feedback on
Yeah, if the judges say that you were, I don't know, too soft, that doesn't mean you're fat. Like, a lot of people kind of like, oh my God, they called me fat. I'm like, no, you just, for the bodybuilding criteria, they wanted you to have a little bit less body fat. It's not personal. It's like saying, oh, can you have your hair cut shorter? Like,
Yeah.
it's not
Why do you want my
personal.
haircut shorter? Well, because it's covering your entire back and we can't see the top of your glutes.
Yeah, it's very much just it's a critique versus the criteria. It has nothing to do with you as a person. If the judges say you need more size, don't come back with, oh, but I have more size than last year. Great. That's cool. You've improved. But you still need more size to fit the criteria. It doesn't mean you haven't worked hard. It just means that you need to continue working. It's not personal.
And oddly enough, you might get the same feedback next year that you got last year because you might still need to be bigger or better condition.
Yeah.
You might have, hey, great, you improved. That's awesome. You took the feedback, you applied it. Great. Now do that again.
My feedback has been to grow more size, especially in my upper body since 2020.
Yeah, it'll be the same feedback next year.
So don't worry if you get the same feedback, or if you're like, oh, but that was my feedback last year and I did improve it. It's like, yes, continue improving it. It's just the way it is.
It's common to have that, that internal narrative, like, I'm not good enough, they don't like me. You've got to kind of reframe some of that. Like, you would judge to a criteria, not your value as an individual person. And that's one of the hardest things about judging is you can only judge what's in front of you. And you have to judge that to the closest you can to the criteria that's given. If nobody fits the criteria, it's a free-for-all. And that's frequently in the past where you've seen there being every girl shown up like shredded, and that's been rewarded. And then the feedback you hear on social media is like, that's the direction they're going this year, da 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 da. Especially if it's an early show, like one of the first ones of the year, and you're like, well, actually, no, that's just everybody was there. And that can be a bit of a problem. But yeah, it's
Another thing, actually, because I know that you've done this before. If a judge gives you a critique on something like your suit cut or posing, please remember that they might not know the terminology that needs to be used or exactly like what needs to be done to fix it. So, for example, Chris once gave feedback to one of the clients. I believe it was saying that she needed the cut to be a little bit more heart-shaped. I think off the top of my head. But that wasn't necessarily the issue. It was actually how she was wearing it. So sometimes what they say might not directly mean, oh, you need a new suit. Or it might not mean you need to change everything about it. Like maybe they say, oh, your suit was it's too low, or like it's too flat at the top. Actually, maybe sometimes you just need to pull up your connectors. It doesn't mean the whole suit needs to be completely redone. So just remember that sometimes the judges don't know that, or even with your posing, they might say you need to show your shoulders more when you pose, or like they might not know how to get there, and they might tell you something that seems contradictory, because they are not posing coaches. They are just telling you what they want to see on stage. So maybe, if we go back to the suit example, they want to see a more rounded cut in bikini. That doesn't mean that you need a complete like V at the back. It just means, that sometimes it's how you wear things. Sometimes it's how things are sitting. Sometimes, yes, you do need adjustments, but please make sure you talk to someone who knows about that specific area before you just suddenly be like, this is law. This is the way.
And it can be just literally like, if they had a bit more of a curve up here, it would accentuate this feature on you more. Yeah, I don't know a sweetheart cut from a freaking Brazilian. It's like, I just look at Rachel and go, what? You explain it. I'll tell you if it looks good, but I don't know that. But the other thing you got to remember,
it's interpreting.
It's interpretation.
Interpreting. So like, I know what Chris means. I know what he means, and I know why it like is shaped like that. But Chris doesn't know why. The athlete might not know why. So sometimes it's context, and make sure you just get an explanation from someone who knows exactly about that little area. And maybe you got told your hair was too light. I know that's been feedback before, because it can, like, especially blonde people, it can reflect very, very brightly. Don't just say, oh, my hair was too bright. Like, it needs to not be as reflective. Like, the hairdresser's going to be like, what the hell?
What the hell? What? Okay, all right.
Whereas the judges will probably say, yeah, your hair was reflecting too much light. And you might go to the hairdresser and be like, what? Okay, so can we have a less reflective hair color, please? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it's be like, okay. But the thing is, you have to remember, it's like if you're applying feedback and all that sort of through the season, and you've done everything the judges have done, and you've brought your absolute best. Sometimes it's just not the best in the lineup, and that's
Yeah.
okay. We've talked about it before, that we always say this year, next year is going to be this particular athlete's year. They were so close and all this sort of other stuff. And then they come out on stage, and then there's this new athlete who may have never seen before, or may have taken the feedback and just nailed their off season and prep. And you're just like, what the hell that happened?
Or sometimes they mess up slightly on their prep, and that athlete that you thought had it in the bag, sometimes they show up not as good as what they were the season before. Like, shit happens.
Or AKA Flex Wheeler, who was assuming he was going to win the Olympia and probably didn't put his heart into it. And then Ronnie Coleman showed up and went, I don't think so. And look what happened there.
Yeah.
The other thing about feedback is sometimes it's wrong. Judges can disagree. It happens all the time. That's why there's always odd numbers of them. Criteria can evolve, and it can evolve quickly. And that's where it's really important as a judge that you do watch a lot of these shows to see what's going on. I tend to probably keep a more eye on, I split it geographically. I'll watch the American shows because that's more reflective of where, say, in the IFBB, where Tyler Mannion's looking. I'll look at that because they tend to be judged one way. Then I'll look at the European shows. They tend to be different look. Same in Asia, different look. So, but the criteria can evolve, and depending on how it's rolled down. And unfortunately, bias does exist. It shouldn't, and we try not. I mean, I can say I try not to, but sometimes it does. And again, that's why there's multiple judges to try and cut that bias out. The reality is patterns matter more than one opinion. So patterns are truth. One opinion is gossip. Don't listen to gossip. Find the truth. That's my deepness for today. That was good, wasn't it? I was like, damn.
That was such dramatic delivery too. Wow.
I know. Did you feel shivers? Was it good?
Yeah, that was like tingles, goosebumps. But yes, no, that is actually really important. Find the patterns. Like, that goes across bodybuilding. Like, find the patterns of posing. What in each federation or each country is being rewarded in posing. So European has a very different posing style than what most of the rest of the world has. They kind of have their own little style there. Australia and Europe both reward a lot of conditioning, whereas US rewards a lot of fullness. Still conditioned, but a lot of fullness. So it does depend where you are. So it is important to think about the context of where you're competing, when you're competing, what is going to be rewarded. Because if you're competing in New Zealand, you might be told your conditioning's perfect. You then go to Australia or to somewhere in Europe, you're going to be probably told you're too soft. So
and we have girls that compete all around the world, and we're like, which is the show we're really targeting? And then we'll look at who's won that show in the past, what's the look that they look for. We'll even look at who do we know that the judge is going to be. I'll go and look at what shows they've judged in the past to see how have they rewarded stuff, to try and get as good an idea as possible. So anyway, we probably waffled enough about feedback, but I think, look, the thing about feedback, it's fuel, right? It helps you create a direction. If you go in thinking your ego is deflated or insulted, or you've got delicate sensibilities, it's going to affect your growth. So if you can't handle it, don't know.
Or ask for the sugar coat.
Yeah, ask for the sugar coat.
Like, I want feedback, but I want it to be nice. Tell me what I did well.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like you kind of need to detach your identity from the outcome. Right? It's like if your identity is based around the color of the medal or your placing or whatever that it is, and that's what you're hanging your entire life on, you probably need to get more of a life outside of bodybuilding.
I like to think of it like art. Like, not everyone is going to like a certain piece of art. Like, the Mona Lisa is the most famous painting in the world. I don't think it looks that good. Like,
I wouldn't want to hang it in my living room.
No. But it's the most famous painting in the world, and I don't know any different, but it does depend a little. Like, not everyone is going to like a specific look. It is art, and everyone's going to have a different opinion. Everyone's going to be subjective. Just think of your body like a sculpture that you are sculpting. Not everyone's going to like it. Yeah, that might suck if they don't like it, because you made the sculpture, but doesn't matter.
And this is a subjective sport. They're not running up there with tape measures and calipers and DEXA scans and all that sort of stuff and saying the perfect is this and who can do the most, leg extensions and hip thrusts and squats. There was a federation that tried that at one stage in the late 90s. They had like they'd go in and do a certain exercise, like there was a power ratio round, like, who could do the most. It was quite interesting. It was kind of like American Gladiator on crack. It was quite funny. But the thing is, like, if you want to be elite, and you want to be at that pro level, regardless of federation, because every pro federation has different looks, and that's not saying one's stronger than the other, they're just different. But if you want to be at that elite level, you need to get uncomfortable you need to get comfortable hearing uncomfortable things. If you can't handle hearing the uncomfortable truth, I feel like that. What was that movie? A Few Good Men. You can't handle the truth, or some shit like that. I'm coming out with all of it. You need to get comfortable with hearing those.
Yes, 100%. That is bodybuilding. But we should let you all get on with your day, because I'm sure you have finished your cardio, because I think we're just over an hour now.
Exactly. No pressure.
No pressure.
We got in a lot of trouble last week, everybody. We kind of messed this up. So we've been practicing, haven't we?
Yes, I have been rehearsing. So, if you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe on YouTube or Spotify. It does help us keep the podcast going and reach more athletes who need these conversations. And we will see you next Monday. Enjoy.
And you got 99 out of 100 words. Perfect. Well done.
I was close.
That's right. All right, guys. We'll see you all next. You're signing off. I'm out. All right, guys. Have a fantastic week. And of course, keep those Sharns coming. Just drop us a DM through Instagram or send us through the anonymous link. They're always a bit of a giggle for us. We'll see you next Monday.